All right, let's dive into a really important topic, the science behind severe fatigue. We're not just talking about being a little sleepy, we're talking about a deep cellular energy crisis. And we're going to figure out what's really going on under the hood. I mean, it's the question so many of us ask ourselves, right? But what if that constant exhaustion isn't just about not getting enough sleep? What if it's actually a signal that something much deeper is happening inside our bodies?
So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take a journey, starting with that overwhelming feeling of being wiped out, and follow it all the way down to the tiny, microscopic engines running inside our cells. Let's peel back the layers and see what's really going on.
Okay, so first things first, let's be really clear about what we're discussing. This is not your average, it's been a long day kind of tired. This is something else entirely. A really complex experience with a lot of moving parts.
See, this is so much more than a list. It's like a web of issues that are all connected. A huge piece of the puzzle is something called post-exertional malaise, or PEM. That's where even a little bit of activity can make you feel like you've been hit by a bus. And that's often tied to the other things you see here, the brain fog, waking up exhausted, even physical changes. It's a huge sign that your body's entire operating system is just struggling.
So where do we even begin to look for answers? Well, our first stop has to be the body's master control panel, your hormonal system. Think of hormones like a super efficient messenger service. They're constantly sending out little notes all over your body to keep everything running just right. But if that messenger service gets disrupted, you feel it everywhere, and you especially feel it in your energy levels.
And a key player here is cortisol. Now, everyone calls it the stress hormone, but honestly, it does way more than that. The key word with cortisol is balance. When your levels are chronically too high or even too low, it can throw your whole system into chaos, and that has a direct hit on how energetic you feel.
So how can we actually see what's going on? Well, there's this really cool indicator called the cortisol awakening response, or CAR. You can think of it as your body's own daily mini stress test. It's this natural surge of cortisol that's supposed to happen the moment you wake up to get you revved up for the day.
Okay, check this out. This is what a healthy response is supposed to look like. Right when you wake up, your cortisol should shoot up by about 50% in the first half hour. That sharp, natural spike is literally what gives you that get-up-and-go feeling, making you feel alert and ready to take on the day.
But what happens when that rhythm is off? It tells a really interesting story. On the left, you have a blunted response, meaning it's too low. This is a classic sign of burnout and chronic fatigue. On the other hand, if it's way too high, that can point to things like chronic stress or issues with your blood sugar. So this simple morning rhythm is like a little window into the health of your entire stress system. All right, now we're going to zoom in, way in. We've looked at the body's control panel. Now we're heading down to the engine room, the actual power source inside every single one of your cells. Everybody, meet your mitochondria. These tiny little things are, and this is no exaggeration, the absolute foundation of all of your body's energy. They are the power plants that keep the lights on.
So their main job is to take the fuel from the food you eat and convert it into a high-energy molecule called ATP. Here's the best way to think about it. If your body is an economy, ATP is the cash. Every single thing you do, thinking, breathing, moving a muscle, it all costs ATP.
So on the surface, it's a pretty simple process, right? Step 1, fuel comes into the cell. Step 2, the mitochondria do their magic and convert it. And step 3, usable energy, that ATP, comes out. This little factory has to run perfectly, 24/7, for you to feel good.
And that brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. What in the world happens when these essential little power plants start to malfunction and break down?
This, right here, is where everything we've talked about connects. We're about to see how hormonal stress and problems at the cellular level can trap you in this just awful, vicious cycle.
And the feeling? Well, it's profound. This quote just captures the sheer severity of it perfectly. It's not just, "I'm tired." It's a full-body sense of devastation that comes from a catastrophic energy failure at the deepest level. Now, we need to introduce the main villain in our story. It's something called oxidative stress. The easiest way to think about it is like cellular rust. As your mitochondria are busy making energy, they also create these damaging byproducts. A little bit of this rust is normal, but when you get too much, it causes serious damage. Okay, so here's how the cycle gets started. Any kind of stress, physical or emotional,
The same kind of stress that messes with your cortisol, it revs up your body's demand for energy. And that increased production naturally creates more of those rusty byproducts, which kicks off oxidative stress.
And this is where it gets really unfair. That rust created by making energy starts to damage the very factories that make the energy. Oxidative stress literally attacks your mitochondria, making them weaker and way less efficient.
And that right there completes the devastating loop. Your damaged, sputtering mitochondria now struggle to make enough ATP, which is why you feel so exhausted. But here's the kicker. At the same time, they start spitting out even more of that cellular rust. So you get less energy and more damage. It is a vicious cycle that is incredibly difficult to escape.
Okay, so that sounds pretty grim, I know, but understanding this cycle is the absolute key to breaking it. The next step is all about learning how to manage your body's energy budget, so you can stop fueling that cycle and actually start healing. And this is where you can start to take back some control. Pacing is huge. It's about learning your personal energy limits and respecting them so you don't trigger that crash. Nutrition is about giving yourselves the high-quality building blocks they need to repair. And finally, advocacy. This is so important. Tracking your own symptoms and having informed conversations with your doctor is absolutely essential to getting the right kind of help. You see, when you understand the deep science behind this kind of fatigue, from your stress hormones all the way down to your cellular engines, it empowers you. You can move beyond just feeling tired and start asking better questions to find real solutions. So knowing all this, what's the first step you can take to understand what's going on in your own energy system?